a long time, I was scared to share my true color, to be who I truly was. I was hiding in the story I was reading, fearful of what people would think about me. But this ends now. I have stopped running. I decide to accept my diversity. Today, I will share our story of neurodiversity and mental health awareness. Welcome on the ADHD Melly Show. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. I'm just came back from vacation, so I feel so relaxed and so happy to come back to you because I enjoy being here and being online to be with you. I was there last week and I'm here this week also. And I'm going to take a small break at the end of September. There's going to be one Friday that I'm not going to be there. But life is life and that's how it is. I have school now and I'm going back to college. So maybe there's going to be some days in this session that I'm not going to be able to make it. But you're going to know in advance, I promise you. But things happens, and today we're going to talk about a subject that is very important to my heart, is how to support a neurodiverse child. Because, when I was a kid, support was not really there. At least they tried, but they didn't do it right to me. I was a lot punished for things that I had no control on. When you're neurodiverse, you're really up to go. You say things that you shouldn't, and you think about it and you're like, I shouldn't say that. But your mind speaks faster than the words speak faster than the mind, and sometimes I was wrongly punished because of that, etc., etc. So that's why I wanted Courtney to come here today and teach you guys a little bit more how you should support your neurodiverse child, even if they do something wrong and you need to punish them, but how you should punish them and how you should bring them to know what their wrong was and how you can support them so it doesn't happen in the future, So we're bringing you Courtney now. A little round of applause for Courtney. So how are you today?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So talk to me a little bit more about you, your story of neurodiversity, your business, and how everything works for you.
Yeah, so I got into this business after being in the insurance industry for 10 years. And I found out that I am ADHD in the summer of 2020 after a long journey of trying to figure out what was wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed anxiety a long time ago, but it was always kind of manageable for me. I had those things in place that made it, I could, function with quote unquote normal people, neurotypical people. But then I had my kid. And the hormone changes with pregnancy or having my child, it was just absolutely, I felt insane. I had no idea what was wrong with me. And they kept saying postpartum, but none of the depression medicines were working. They actually made me feel worse. And so finally, a friend of mine actually got diagnosed ADHD. And I said, well, what is that? What are you struggling with that, And she started talking to me and I thought, oh, that's it. That's the actual problem. It's not depression, it's ADHD and feeling guilty because everyone seems to not be struggling with this thing called motherhood that's supposed to be so natural, and I cannot get it figured out. I'm like, what is happening? So that's how I got diagnosed. But as a child, I was always, a nickname of mine was Space Cadet. I could easily just space out in the middle of a conversation and just be gone. It was just like, where did you go? It's like, I'm gone. I don't know. So I'm sure I was able to make it through school and college and get a full-time job, but I'm sure that there are things that I absolutely missed from completely spacing out in school and just being missed.
But how was your childhood about getting punished and getting, with your parents, etc., etc.? You say how was it for you? Did you feel when you were a child that you see all the other kids, everything's going perfectly for them, they're never getting punished as much as you, etc.? How was with your childhood and your education when you were a kid?
Yeah, so I think I got very lucky. I don't feel like I was in trouble any more than any other kid, but I also have two younger twin brothers. So I was more, and when you have inattensive ADHD, you don't have as much of the hyperactive, like saying things that you don't mean without thinking, things like that. You can. I did not as much. So I don't really have a memory of getting in trouble more than anyone else. But I also think that has a lot to do with the fact that my mom and dad had two other kids that they're only 2.5 years younger than me. So having to juggle that, I think, definitely played a part. We also kind of lived outside. So that was back in the day when you could actually play outside, and it wasn't like, why is that kid outside? What are they doing? Like now it is nowadays where you're like neighbors are calling like, you know your kid's outside right now? It's like, yeah, I know. They're playing outside. It's normal. So yeah, I just have vivid memories of if me and my brothers would start fighting, it was go outside. I don't want to hear it. Go outside. Or we lived in Pennsylvania, so it snowed a lot. So the other option was go to the basement, go play in the basement. So no, I don't have vivid memories of getting in trouble more than anyone. I don't feel like I got in trouble more than anyone else. I definitely felt like I struggled more in school. Um, I have a memory of having to do homework, and our homework desk was right next to a window. And again, my brothers are 2.5 years younger than me, so they would get to go outside and play.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be sitting at this desk, and I'm just staring out the window. So yeah, I definitely struggled more than I think other people did for sure.
Great. And do you think that, without talking about their life of your brothers, do you think they did have ADHD, or do you think it's something in your family? Do you think a
Yes.
parent had ADHD?
Yeah, I joke around with both my parents about whether or not they're ADHD. You know, my brothers, I don't know if my brothers are, there's definitely signs. But we all have anxiety, so it's hard to tell sometimes. But my mom does things like she hasn't done it in a long time, but she used to always, she was a math teacher, a high school math teacher. And she would talk about tripping over backpacks in the road, or like she's constantly stubbing her little toe. And it's just like, and just knowing now what I know, it's like, could be. So yes, I think, and then the forgetfulness, definitely runs in the family. So I think it's definitely a possibility for sure. But no one else is diagnosed ADHD. I'll say that.
That's cool. And yeah, so for you, we're going to go back to education, because you said that your child has ADHD. So what were the signs that make you consult, or because I guess if he got diagnosed as a child, his symptom was higher than yours.
So he is not officially diagnosed yet. Actually, I have a meeting this coming Monday, with someone to go through the evaluation process for him. So I'm not positive, but these signs are a lot like what you said, saying things before he thinks about it. So like lying, but it's not lying out of being a bad kid. He'll say things like for instance, he goes to after school program and he tells his teacher that he doesn't have his uniform. He doesn't have it. Well, it's always in his bag. You absolutely have it. And so it's like, and he's only 5, so it's hard to tell, but I think it's really like he just does not remember. He doesn't know that it's in there. When I ask him how his day was at kindergarten, he'll tell me what he did in an after school program, but he usually has zero memory of the rest of the day. It's too far away. He doesn't, I don't know what I did today. Like, no clue. You know, that's like asking me what I had for breakfast. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I ate, but I don't know. And then the other very clear signs for him are he never stops moving and he never stops talking. And it makes me wonder if I was like that as a child, and just as I grew up in society, realized that that was not acceptable behavior. And so I turned it inwards and stopped doing that. I stopped talking all the time. Well, I shouldn't say I stopped talking all the time. I still talk a lot. But I don't move a lot. And so it just, watching him grow and seeing these things within him, it makes me wonder if that was something that I did and just learned very quickly that that was not acceptable. So I try to do my best as a only parent and very tired parent, you know, giving him a lot of space, giving him a lot of understanding. So like, for instance, when he lies, I try not to think about it as purposeful lying. He's not lying on purpose. He's not lying to be a bad kid. He doesn't, obviously no kid wants to get, and so really I kind of, you know, even though I only coach adults and I coach parents, that's my passion. I'll coach any adult, but my passion is parents because that's, you know, obviously the situation I'm in. But I try to do more like coaching with him, like, you know, what makes you feel like that? What made you say that? You know, how are you feeling right now? Asking more questions than being accusatory, like, you're lying. You just lied. I know you lied because you're the only one here, so I know you did it. And it's like, that just makes him shrink and get defensive, and then it causes tantrums and we get nowhere. So I try to be more empathetic with him and stay calm. Although I will say I'm not perfect. So it's hard.
I remember when I was a kid, I did the same thing that him, and I was like, I was always getting punished anyway, so I just lied for things that I knew that I did, you know, because I was scared of getting punished for things that I don't remember anyway. So I was like, I'm getting punished for something I don't remember. It's going to be worse if I remember it, you know?
Exactly. And that is one of my hopes, you know, is that as I don't yell at him and don't accuse him of things, you know, because he legitimately doesn't remember, and he's only 5, you know?
Yeah.
So even if he does remember, like, there are things that he does where he literally just did it. You know that he remembers it, but it was an impulse. It wasn't like a conscious decision on his part. So to get in trouble for something that he didn't have control over in the first place is not going to get us anywhere. So I really try to, you know, just say, oops, you know, that was a mistake, huh? Okay. You know, let's try to not do that again, you know? Like, I have marker on my couches not because he drew on my couches. He is doing art and he forgets to put the top on the marker. And then he's running around. And I've told him multiple times, do not put the top back on the marker. But he forgets, or he thinks of something and he forgets that he even has the marker in his hand. And so he's just wandering around with a topless marker, like getting all over my house. And so, but to yell at him or to make him go to his room or, you know, take away his iPad or whatever, that's not going to do anything, but just having a conversation about it. And then honestly, it just takes more work. I just have to watch him when I know he's got those markers. And that's it. I mean, we expect so much of kids. And I feel like a lot of adults expect kids to almost be adults. And it's like, they're not. They don't understand. It's like, I was just talking to somebody about punishment and how, you know, they're not doing their homework. So right now their routine is they get home from school, they get to play video games for 30 minutes, then they have to do their homework. And they're not doing their homework for whatever reason. And they're like, well, I'm just going to take, they're not playing the video games anymore. We're not doing that anymore. And I said, that is not going to work. And I wasn't coaching this person. This was a personal conversation, but I said, that is probably the worst thing you can do, because that's their downtime. That's their like decompression. And if that's how they decompress, then all you're going to accomplish with that is now you're going to have fights every single day over homework and screen time. I said, instead, figure out what happens after their screen time that's preventing them from being able to do their homework. So like, does their little brother or sister come home? Does their, is the dog bothering them? Is their space not set up right? Are you trying to force them to study in silence? Like my kid, he's in kindergarten and already has homework, which that's another subject. I'm not going to go on that tangent, but we watch TV while we're doing homework. We have the TV on and he watches his YouTube stuff while he's doing his homework, because he can concentrate while that's on. He cannot concentrate if he's trying to do it in silence. Doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And you say that your kids like lies and stuff like that. And sometimes it's not only about lies, it's also when you're impulsive, because with ADHD it can happen. You can say something, you do something, and you're like regretting already, and you're getting punished while you're already punishing yourself for doing something. So it's like a double punishment,
Exactly. So that's why it's so important for parents. And that's what I coach parents on, right? So it's so important to me that, especially if they are also ADHD, even if they're not, to understand ADHD more, understand what it is, how it looks and it's different for everybody, but we talk about what's going on, and like, I will point out, like, yeah, that's probably the ADHD, and then learning the acceptance of themselves and their children, because if they accept themselves and can get to a point where they're, happier in general, then they're going to show up as much better parents. One of the things that I like to say is happy parents make happy kids. So if you're, whether you know it or not, you think you're hiding it, whatever, kids are very intuitive. If you're miserable, your kids know, and you're making them miserable, and it's affecting them. And I know this from experience, because I was not diagnosed until my son was 3. He was 3 years old already. And so I'm happy that he was so young, and I'm hoping that he doesn't remember any of that. But I was miserable. And you could tell, you really could tell a difference in his attitude, especially at 3, because 2.5 to 3.5 is just a really hard year. That's a really hard age in general for kids. But you could tell a difference in his demeanor when I started working on myself and really when I started Adderall, really, I was happier because it helped my anxiety. A lot of people think that it revs you up. It does not. It calms me down. I feel so much better. I can get my thoughts in a row. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I can remember things. It's amazing. And so that really has helped me become a happier person, so that I can do the things to take care of him as well.
Yeah, so, and you said that you take medication, so I guess your child will take medication when you get diagnosed. What's your thought about that?
So I take it because I didn't start it. Now, I'm not against medicine. Obviously, I still take it. But the way it is here, I said I think I have ADHD, and I said it a couple times before they finally believed me, I guess. But I was never evaluated, they just said, here's some medicine. If it works, you have ADHD. And if it doesn't work, then you don't have ADHD. And I thought, oh, okay, that sounds great. Sure. Knowing what I know now, I know that that's like, what? Like, you're just okay. Like, no, so one day when I have saved up the money, I would like to actually go through the full evaluation. But no, so for him, especially because he's 5, we will try other things first before we'll try everything before we go on medicine, because even though it does help me a lot, there are side effects to it that I don't want him going through. And I think at least here, and I'm not positive, but I remember hearing that I think you have to be 7 before they'll give you at least stimulants. You have to be 7. So he would even have 2 years before that. But that's just not going to be our journey, especially being a coach. I know so many wonderful coaches that work with children that I would call them before I put him on medicine and see if they could help him first and then go from there. But yes, if none of that works, then we would try medicine. But that'll be more when he
gets older.
Yeah, it gets older and can express like how he's feeling. Because these side effects for me are not that bad, because if they were so bad, I wouldn't take it at all. But I need him to be a little bit more aware of his body, and he's just not there yet. So yeah, no, we'll try other things. And right now he's been in kindergarten for a month because we are back in school already since August 1st. And so far there's been no problems. So until I'm really getting the evaluation so that, because here, if you want any kind of IEP or 504 plan, the individual education plan or 504, you have to have the evaluation. They won't, the teachers won't, either they won't or they can't do anything to accommodate your child unless there is an evaluation. So that's why we're getting the evaluation, really, is so that if we start having trouble in school, I can say, here's the evaluation. Now do what I tell you.
Yeah, before it's too late.
Of course.
Yeah, before it's too late and your child's already suffering because they have bad grades,
Exactly. Yes. Because I don't want him to ever think that, like me, personality flaw, oh my gosh, I was in my 20s. I thought I was stupid, like legitimately dumb. And I couldn't believe that I got it. I thought everything was just luck. It was luck that I passed college. It was luck that I got a job. Just like, I just really had no self-confidence in myself. And now I realize that, no, I am really smart. It's just the way that people teach is not conducive to my brain. And now that I know what is, I can learn a lot.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I do feel you. And when I was a kid, medicine was like more like punishment for my symptoms. It was like you take it because you have that, because you move too much, because you do this and do that. So what's your approach if your child need medication and make them feel that it's not because they have a problem necessarily and not affect their self-confidence?
Oh, well, so like I said, it'll be until he's older. And really, there are so many things that can help before medicine that, like I said, that's really the last resort. So like for fidgeting, there's so many fidgets out there. I heard there's one, the way the desks are, they put one of those exercise bands they tied it around the front 2 legs so the kid could kick the exercise band or they could push it, and it's quiet and it doesn't disturb class. There's those little foot pedals that you can put under desks. So there's so many accommodations, but if we get to the point where he does need it, you know, we've tried everything and he does need medicine, it will just be it will be a long conversation about what he thinks is best for him, what his goals are, you know? So of course, every kid wants to do well. Nobody wants to get in trouble, right? And so if he's struggling with grades, say his grades plummet, you know, it'll be, so what's important to you about, you know, is it important to you to get good grades? Yes, of course it will be, because no kid wants to be a failure, right? And so say, okay, well, this is help your brain just focus so that you can, you know, focus better in school and be able to do your homework and things like that. It's not anything that's wrong with you. It's just your brain is going a mile a minute, which I know it is because he's constantly talking or singing, making up songs, dancing, you know. And so it will not be like you're perfect the way you are, but we need you to get through this school. And the fact that I take it is like, well, and I'm open about my brain with him and how it works. Like I will tell him, because he's not a big hugger, which is really good because neither am I. But there's occasions where he wants hugs. And I'll say, okay, we can do a 10-second hug, but then mommy is feeling overstimulated, which means that her skin hurts kind of. And I can do a 10-second hug, but then I need to stop. Okay. I'll say, okay. And then it's like a game, right? It's like 10-second hug and then done, you know? And that seemed, and I think because he has the same things going on. So there's occasions where I'm like, you know, where I want a hug. I'm like, can I have a hug? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, maybe later. And then he'll say, 10-second hug. It's in his mind. He's like, 10-second hug, mommy. And so we'll do the 10-second hug because it's like, that's, you know, he realizes that that's a way that I can still get what I want and he can still get what he wants. It's just, we have to compromise.
Yeah.
So I think just in general, raising him with the awareness that mommy's brain works differently, and being weird is awesome, and go with that and don't ever stop. When it comes to medicine, he'll already have that, like, I'm perfect the way I am mentality. So it will be just like, you know, I have to take this medicine because school is not taught the way it likes to be taught. And so this will help me learn the way they're teaching. And then, you know, when I'm all done, we can stop taking it if we want. For me, though, and it may be the same for him, but for me, like I said, it actually helps my, not just with concentration, but also with like my emotional, being able to control my emotions and stay calm. I have panic attacks if I don't take my Adderall, which may surprise people because, again, people assume stimulants makes you more hyper. But so it may be the same for him. I don't know. So we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, I'll definitely be making sure that he knows it's not anything wrong with him.
So you said that your child knows that his own brain and your brain are different. So you explain him a little bit more. So I give you an example. A parent learns that their children have ADHD. How should they explain that to the child?
So if they don't have ADHD themselves, oh gosh. I would make, like I said, I would make sure that they never make it like it's something wrong with them. So ADHD just means that your brain works differently than what our society is made for. So I would look forward to the day where everyone who has ADHD is fully diagnosed and knows that they have ADHD. And then they do a study where it's actually like the majority of population. And it's just like, oh, we're not the outliers. Actually, we're the norm. It's just that somehow society was created for the neurotypical people who can sit still and not run around and, calm their brain or like, clear their mind, whatever. So that's just how our society is. That and the school, whether it's public school or private school, they do unfortunately have to have a certain amount of fitting in. Like there's just that expectation of that. And maybe one day that will change, which would be amazing, but we're not there yet. So just coming at it like, being honest, first of all. I did hear somebody saying like that they weren't going to tell their kid. And that can cause
emotional
issues.
damage.
Oh, so honestly, one of the best things that ever happened to me was me finding out that I was ADHD, because I grew up thinking there was something wrong with me. It was like a personality flaw. So I would definitely not recommend not telling them. Definitely be honest and just say, your brain works differently. It's, and then make sure that you point out, like pick out some things like, what do you think, or what are some of your favorite things about you? And then when you explain to them that they have that they are ADHD, use those examples. Like, this is amazing about you. This is amazing about you. You remember, you love this part of you. Your brain just works a little bit differently. And these are the things that we're going to do to help you be able to, function in school or, relate to people better, things like that. So just being open and honest and making sure that you highlight the good things, especially at a young age, is so, so important.
Yeah, and you can tell them we are the one that's going to survive a zombie apocalypse.
That's right. Because we're going to have the creative solutions, right? 100%. Yes.
So, that with ADHD, sometimes it's hard to go to sleep or having a routine and follow the routine. If we need the routine, but at the same time, it's hard for us to go into it. So it's like a love-hate situation. We need it, but we don't like it. So how is it for your kid, because he has to go to school, because now he's no more a little kid, he needs to go, and every morning he needs to go up, etc. So how does it go for this first month of school?
Yeah, so it was not that big of a change because, like I said, I'm an only parent. So he's always gone to daycare and then pre-K and kindergarten. So things have not really changed. And because I'm late diagnosis, I have formed these, the word is leaving me, but these habits to compensate for my ADHD. And so I'm very structured. Bedtime, always the same time. I actually was just talking to somebody about our bedtime routine, and like, I do things a little bit differently because of our ADHD. So I know a lot of people are like, no screens before bed. It's so bad for your brain. I would love to see like who they do those studies on and if they're ADHD people, because I think most of the ADHD people that I've talked to, at least, need screens before bed. Like, they maybe not social media, but just like, calming videos, or even just reading a book on your screen. And so we do a little bit. I give him 5 minutes of iPad time for bed. We go up, we brush teeth, and he's asleep by 7:30 p.m., which is amazing. And most people that I've talked to are like, how do you do that? And I said, well, hold up, because there's also a downside. He's up at 4:30 a.m.
Oh my.
So yeah, so for me, and we've always kidded around about this in my family. So my dad's side of the family, we love our sleep. We need sleep. I'm one of those people that I need more than 8 hours. That's 8 hours is not going to do it for me. And naps. A lot of us nap, and so sometimes, again, talking about that family history of ADHD, I'm wondering if that's like sensory overload. And so we're like really tired and we need a nap a lot and we need more sleep because, the
True.
input of life in general is just too much for us. But again, no one else is diagnosed, so I don't know. But yeah, so the schedule was not that big of a deal. We did have part of the other reason I'm getting him diagnosed is because he had a really hard time when he went into pre-K last year. It was set up more like public school, so it was more structured, even though it wasn't public school, and he struggled. He was having tantrums, he was flipping out, he was banging on the windows. And so luckily, because he wasn't in public school, I didn't need a diagnosis. And I asked his teacher, I said, well, when are these things happening? Because I was going through my coach training at the time. I had been, through it for a couple months. And I said, when is this happening? She said, well, usually when we're changing what we're doing. And when I'm asking him to sit down, up a task, whatever it may be. So, and then circle time. He did not want to be right next to kids. He has spatial, like, again, I said, he's not a huggy guy and neither am I. Like, we need our space. That was something I also got made fun of for growing up, is like, I'd say you're in my bubble and, oh no, don't get in Courtney's bubble. And I didn't realize at the time, I was just like, oh, whatever, I really do have a bubble, guys. It really bothers me. I get made fun of. And now I realize, oh, that's probably sensory issues. Amazing. But they were able to get him a special timer, and he had a special dot outside of the circle so that he didn't have to be right next to other kids. And by the end of the year, he didn't need those accommodations anymore because he got used to it. So I don't remember what your question was. I just started rambling and then I lost my train of thought.
It was the routine.
Yes. So anyway, so the routine was not an issue, but that change in the school routine, and I think, the daycare was a little bit more relaxed, even though it was structured still, just the different structure going into pre-K was very difficult for him. So we just set up those accommodations for him and he was able to ease into a different routine within pre-K. So I would say if anyone's trying to or struggling with that, start really small, like very, very small. Because if you are going to bed, say your kid goes to bed at 10 p.m. right now, if you try to get that kid in bed by 7, that's going to be a fight and you're all going to be miserable. And that's just crazy. Start small. If you go to bed at 10, try 9:45, or even 9:50, like really, really, really small steps. And even for adults, it's the same. I mean, you don't want to try to jump into something completely new. You want baby steps. So that's really how to get set up for success. And the other thing with school is, I don't know what made me think of this, but like the before school shopping, I feel like that could cause some issues. And here's why. I used to run. I don't run anymore. I ran 1 half marathon and was like, well, this is terrible. Why do people do this to themselves? And I know. But one of the things they said is do not buy new shoes for the marathon. Buy the ones that you're already used to, because they're comfy. And so if you have experienced like first day dread, tantrums, I don't want to go back to school, this is horrible, one of the questions I would ask is, are you doing back to school shopping and getting them brand new clothes, brand new shoes, all these things? Because I think neurotypical think that makes it exciting, like, yay, all new things, right? But I think for not all, but a lot of neurodivergent people in general, but kids especially, that is like, oh, so much change. I have new clothes now. I have new shoes now. I have a new teacher. It's a new routine because we have them doing this all of summer. And it's just like way too much new stuff. So
True.
that would be one thing that I would think might ease up on the new changes is don't make so many new things. Why do we do that? I don't understand. Anyways.
My mom did that, but I admit for me it was fun because it brings my dopamine up, you know.
Yeah,
But
and that's it. Like everyone's different, right? So some people would love excited about back to school shopping and they want all those new clothes. But if you have a kid who's not excited about it, they don't like the back to school shopping, maybe that is a sign, you know, to now, of course, if they grew out of their clothes over the summer, there's really not much that you can do. I mean, you don't have a choice. But if they don't grow out of their clothes, then, you know, I would say definitely try to make as little changes as possible because going back to school is a big, big, big change.
it's true. I think it was not necessarily the clothes, but it was more like shopping for the books and stuff like that. I was like, oh no, I have to go back to school. Anxiety was like, it depends on what the shopping was about, you know.
That's right.
It's like, oh my god, we still have 3 weeks in summer. Why are you doing this and now? You know, it's so early. And sometimes she was doing it, and because here school starts in September, end of October, so it was like still in July, and she was like shopping for stuff for school, and I was like panicking because it was not the time for me, you know.
Yeah. And that was me too. Like as soon as I got the list, I immediately bought. Now I went on Amazon. I didn't actually go shopping because I don't do stores unless I absolutely have to. But yeah, I bought everything online way ahead of time because I knew I would forget or I'd lose the list. I was like, let me get this done now before I lose it.
And sometimes you can get overwhelmed because you have to get that color, that exact thing, and 12 pencil when they don't need necessarily 12 right away, you know. That's very overwhelming. I saw all the erasers and stuff like that. I was like, and sometimes they ask for too much, you know, and like, why do I not need to buy that later when they need it? Why do I need to buy all that now? It's like super overwhelmed. I'm not a parent, but I can feel how overwhelmed that you may be yourself of buying all those stuff. So as an adult, how do you feel with ADHD? How do you feel how do you feel when your child needs to go to school for this first day? Because I know for the parents sometimes it can be very anxiety for your own self, you know.
Yeah, it was and I still it's a lot. So I didn't realize how much work it would be for me as well. I mean, I knew like, okay, I'll have to help them with homework and stuff, but I guess I thought kindergarten would not be like that. Like kindergarten, you have homework? Are you kidding me? And it is easy. It's not a big deal. But you know, the anxiety of I want to be involved, right? So having my own business, you know, my mom was she was able to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I always knew that I wouldn't be able to be exactly like that as involved in the school, but I still want to do what I can. And so, you know, managing that calendar, I mean, I just added a whole new calendar onto my schedule. Keeping up with all the emails, like honestly, I am this close to asking for accommodations for myself. Like, can you please bullet point your newsletter or highlight what is actually super important in this newsletter because they are so long and I just cannot. I even have Speechify so that I can listen and read at the same time. And I'm still just like, I find myself still zoning out. I'm like, oh, what did I just read? So yeah, that, it's tough. It really is. But finding those things that work for you. I mean, I'm so happy that I went through the coaching program and I already found out all this stuff about me. So I know how I learn best. I know what kind of accommodations I need. And so if it gets to the point really where I'm like missing stuff, I will be emailing them and saying, listen, I need an email, not a note home. I need an email that I can put in my Speechify and listen to it, and please bullet point or highlight the stuff that like needs to get done today. But so far they're pretty organized. They do have folders that come home and it's like labeled return to school and stay at home. So that's great and works pretty well. Except yesterday I took out all the things in the folder and then I forgot which one was in the stay at home.
Oh no.
Which one was the return to school. I was like, oh crap, I just have a pile of papers here. So I returned them all to school. Figured, you know what? It's better to just turn it all in. And if they don't want it back, they can just send it home again.
A good idea.
Yeah.
So we're almost going to end, and I wanted to know if there was something that you want to talk about before the show ends.
No, not that I can think of. My mind just went completely blank as soon as
Totally
you
fine.
said it. It's ADHD. Oh, you asked me a question, and now I have no ideas.
No problem. Just say, and sometimes I zone out when my guest speaks, and I try to not lose what you say, my own self sometimes.
Yes.
I'm working so hard to not losing.
To concentrate, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's so difficult. It's like, yeah, absolutely.
I want to thank everybody for being here or going to watch this in replay. Thanks so much. And don't forget to participate in the Neurodiversity Awareness event. Don't forget Monday is going to increase of price. So if you're not sure if you want to get tickets just now or you're going to pay more. So I'm not going to say never because you're still going to be able to get it. But you're going to get a live stream ticket at $15 instead of $5. So you decide, So yeah, thanks so much again for being here. And thank you so much, Courtney, for being here as well and talk to me about all of that. It's very interesting. And thanks so much for accepting. Even if you feel a little bit anxious about it, you did great. And thank you so much again. So everybody, we'll see you again next Friday. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.